Making a Monster is the latest crime series I've watched on Crime+Investigation, and this is actually really interesting. It's an 8-part series, and it did take me maybe 2 episodes to kind of get into it and to start feeling like I really thoroughly enjoyed it. But once it got going and I kind of realised what it was trying to do, I really loved it. Now, normally I prefer true crime documentaries where they look at the victims, we get crime scene photos, it talks about the weapons used and the forensics. But with Making a Monster, it's not really about that. We do look at those things in small parts because it's all relevant. It looks at, we have conversations with forensic psychologists and psychiatrists looking partly at the childhood and the upbringing of serial killers. We're also looking at, events in their lives close to the time of the murders or when they first began killing to see what makes them tick and what makes them turn into a serial killer. Because it kind of addresses the question, is anybody born a serial killer, or is it about your upbringing? And I really liked it. We had some clips of some of the serial killers. We had footage from the time, not too much of it. Mostly it is just interviews and discussions with the psychologists, but I really like that because I love forensic psychology. I think it's a really fascinating thing, and sometimes you can see these patterns and there are warning signs. There was a particularly interesting point somebody made in one of the last episodes. This isn't a spoiler for anything, but they said that they're starting to train veterinary surgeons, on animals that have been hurt by children, because a child who is willing to maim or injure their own pet could go on to become a serial killer. That is often a foundation for that. Not always. If somebody has killed their pet, it doesn't mean they're going to murder humans. But they talked about how they were trying to get vets to recognise this, and I thought that was really interesting. So I did thoroughly enjoy it. But what I loved most is that I had only heard of, I believe, one of these. The first one was Rose West. Obviously, I've heard of Rose West. I think I'd heard of maybe 2 of these. So they were presenting really unique cases that I hadn't heard of. And while I now want to kind of know more about the serial killers I hadn't heard of and look more into the victims, in terms of forensic psychology, it really is really fascinating. I made quite a few notes when I was watching it. And I write crime fiction, by the way. I'm not planning a murder. And I find it really thoroughly interesting. So I definitely recommend it if you're interested in forensic psychology and what makes a serial killer tick. There are exceptions to the rule. There's no solid blueprint for the making of a serial killer. But there are things that could be warning signs, triggers, developments, the way people progress. So it's just really fascinating. I really liked how it was put together. I thought the lack of kind of photographs from the crime scenes and things would make it not very exciting. But they do have some, and what they have makes it pretty interesting. It's enough. It's definitely enough because it's more about the psychology. So if you prefer the gory, gritty true crime documentaries, this probably won't be for you. But if you don't mind forensic psychology, or like me, you're actually really passionate about it, I would definitely say give it a go. As I said, it took me about 2 episodes to kind of really get into it. So if you start watching it and you don't really think it's very good, just stick with it. I think it's well edited, well put together, the pacing's great. We hear from a good variety of industry professionals. The 8 cases are all pretty different. I don't think any of them were really too similar to one another. So it's fresh, it's refreshing, it's a little different, and I think if you're in the right mind frame for this kind of true crime, I think you'll really enjoy it.